Sometimes it can feel intimidating just to start a mix for a song. Today, I'm going to be walking with you through what I am doing currently on a mix that I am just getting started. Over the past few weeks, I've been working on a project recording things like instruments and vocals, and now I've gotten it to the point where I need to start mixing it down. And I'm going to be walking you through the steps and actions that I'm taking right now to get a baseline mix to where I can build upon that and create a mix that I like. If this is something that you're interested in, I'll be giving you tips and tricks along the way of things that you can do to help speed up your mix and get to a place where you feel comfortable and good about what you're putting together. So let's jump in. So right now I have finished up doing a bunch of background vocals on a song that I've been working on for a couple of weeks. Last week I talked about finishing up what I consider to be the messy middle, pressing through that and getting some more instruments put in. And then at the end of that video, I was talking about going back and having to redo some of the vocals and then put in some harmonies and different things along those lines. And so that's what I ended up doing over these past few days. So I reworked verse 1 and verse 2, put in some harmonies on both the pre-chorus, the chorus, and in verse 2, as well as the bridge and the outro. And so now I've gotten to the place where I'm starting to mix down the instrumental tracks and then start to do some mixing with the vocals as well. And this is just the first pass mix. So I'm gonna bring up the mixer and I'm gonna show you kind of how I have everything arranged. So I have it similar to what is I have it similar to what it is in the actual playlist. So I bring this up, you'll see things are color coded. I have drums up top in gray. And then the bass tracks are in yellow, the acoustics are in green, the electric guitars are here in this like seafoam, whatever color you want to call that. And then the other instruments are in this reddish kind of color, and down here are the vocals. And right now, all these gray ones are the new ones, which I'll be going in and color coding those as well as doing some basic mixing on them. I've gotten started on a couple of those. So in the mixer, you'll see that the same thing is kind of reflected. So let me talk you through and walk you through a little bit of what I'm doing first. A lot of times I'm doing basic cleanup on things like the vocals before I even get started. So what that looks like for me is I'll zoom into a particular section. Let's take these last vocals over here, and you'll see like at the end, there are these areas where sounds are at the end of it, but they aren't really needing to be or intended to be part of the song. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will come in with my pencil tool. If you press just P on your keyboard, and then it'll change to arrows at the end of it, and you can drag it back to kind of cut out. So this is where I'm pressing the keyboard to stop, and you'll hear that little click. And I don't want that click on all those tracks. So a lot of times I'll come in here and just drag those back to clean that up and not have those anymore. And if you want to do more than one at the same time, you can hold down Control, left click and drag around them to highlight them all, and then wait for that other arrow and you can do the same thing. So you can try to clean up all of them at the same time. And then I will usually go back and do the same thing on the front end as well. So just making sure that I'm getting rid of some of those other pops and clicks. So I'm also holding down Alt when I'm left clicking and dragging so that it doesn't just snap to the grid, but that I can slide it smoothly and get ahead of some of those other things like breaths or clicks or pops or anything along those lines. And so now I have that cleaned up. I'll do that on all those vocal files because a lot of times when I stop recording, I'll press the space bar and you'll actually hear that in the recording. So this lets me go back in and get everything squared up a little more cleanly. And then one of the tools that's really helpful as well is to use the Y tool. So if you press Y on your keyboard and then you left click on a file, it will play just that file. And a lot of times what I'm doing when I'm doing that is previewing the sound, but also figuring out where the track is so that I can then route it into the mixer. Alright, so that's that track. So these look like they're all in order here. So these four tracks are that are here in the mixer or in the playlist. So I'm going to go over to the mixer And let me listen through and figure out which track I want to be the lead on this one. Love is a wrecking ball, shadows and light. Love is a wrecking ball. Love is a wrecking ball, shadows and lies that you think of it all. Love is a wrecking ball. So I like either the second or the fourth one to be the lead vocal. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pick this second one. So I'm gonna click over to here, and the second one was this one. So now I have that selected. I'm going to press F9 again. I'm gonna come over here and just route it to a new track. So this is gonna be like my lead for this last section. So I'm gonna press Control and L. And then, so that's now the lead, and I'm gonna have to adjust the volume because apparently there are some other effects on it. So usually when I have other vocals like this, if they are singing similar things, then I'll start looking at panning them different places. So let's take this first vocal, and I'm going to pan that one a little bit left, take this other one and pan it a little bit right, and then I'm going to show you something that I just have tried out this track and see if maybe you want to do something similar to that. So these next two tracks, this one and this one, I'm going to route to one track so that I can process those the same. So I'm going to come over here to this one, I'm going to grab this track and this track by pressing down Shift and then left clicking on the tracks that I want. I'm gonna press to go into the mixer, F9, come over to this channel and press Control and L. And what that's gonna do is route both of those tracks into that same one. So now, let me cut the volume down here. So now we should have the first three tracks routed out to the mixer. Oops. Shadows and lies that you think of it all, and it all comes down. So now there's more of a stereo field that's going on around my head. And then the last thing that I want to do is take this last track that's singing a similar thing, but I'm going to process it a little bit differently. So I'm going to click that channel, click on F9 again, come over here, press Control L again, cut this down. And so now I have these vocals all routed in. Love is a wrecking ball. Shadows and lies that you think of it all. All right, so they're all routed in there, and now my first pass on these things is going to be to drop in an EQ. So normally what I will do is I'll come over here, I'll grab an EQ, and then I'm starting from a blank slate. But a lot of times what ends up happening is I'll do some fairly similar moves on these EQs. So what I might do is just go ahead and map in some of the basics of what I want for this. Shadows and lies that you think of it all, and it all comes down to lies that you are. So let's say I like that one. So then I'm going to share this setting with the other two as well. I'm going to just do the save preset, drop it over here. And so now this same preset has been dragged across all three of them. Love is a wrecking ball. Shadows and lies that you think of it all, and it all comes down to lies that you all believe in. So if this is an EQ that you may end up doing a similar thing on a lot of other tracks, it's a good idea to just create a basic preset from that. So if I know that I'm going to do a similar kind of thing on most vocals, maybe I will come down in here, do save preset as, and then I'll just call this something like vocal mix first pass or something. So that just gives me a general thing. And so now if I come in here and I drop an EQ on any one of these settings, I could just come in here and open the preset and use that one that I just created, and it'll automatically bring in that curve. Or alternately, I can come down here to plugins, presets, go to that one, and you should see the same preset over here. And again, you can just drag and drop that. So now that I've done that EQ on those couple of vocals, one thing that I actually had been trying here recently is to jump in here with a doubler plugin, which is from Waves. So I'm going to use the double stereo plugin, and I'm going to turn off the direct. And what this is going to do is take that one single vocal that was panned right down the middle, and it's going to split it out and put it on the sides. And right now it's going to put them the same gain and panned about 45 degrees one way or the other, but it's just putting a different delay on one side or the other so that it's going to sound more stereo. So I'll let you listen to what that sounds like. I'm going to mute out the other ones and do kind of a before and after. So this is what just the single vocal sounds like. That's what the second vocal on top of it, and then here's what the actual doubler plugin is doing. Without it, and then with it again. So that's a pretty interesting thing that I've been trying here recently, and it's helpful if you only do a couple of passes and maybe you only have one lead vocal and then maybe one other take that's pretty similar. You can try using a doubler plugin like that and just spreading out the takes so that they take up more real estate in the stereo field. And so if I go back over here to all of these instruments, you'll see that there is a similar EQ that's across all of those. And what I was trying this time was to just make a basic EQ setup that has a low cut and a high cut so that I can use that to trim out things that I want to be more in the bass zone of things or more in like a high-end spectrum sort of thing going on. And so just shaping the tone of different instruments to try to get them to sit where I want them to in the full picture of the song. So I've been trying that here recently of just dropping just that mixing EQ on there, and then also shaping certain ones where I'm trying to take out a certain portion of it that I don't like the sound of. I'll just dip out certain things. And then in some instances, I think like the strings, I'm actually boosting a little bit in one place. Choir, I think I did a similar thing. I boosted in a couple places, but I'm using this same basic shape across a lot of different instruments. I'm trying it out. I'm not sure if I'll use it all the time, but it's something that I was trying this time just to get a little bit more, to be able to move through things a little bit quicker. So I just created that preset, and then I just went ahead and dropped that on the different channels that I wanted to drop that onto. So that's where I'm at right now, and then my next step will really be to dial in and start doing some compression on instruments that need that and vocals that need that, and then move into things like effects. So whether I want to put in some distortion or saturation, or if I want to do something like some sends for delays or reverbs or things like that, I might set up some buses for that so that I can start mixing out the rest of this song to make it feel a little bit more cohesive. Well, I hope it was helpful for you to be able to see a couple of tips that you can use to get started on your mixes. I know it can feel really intimidating, and one of the most intimidating parts about mixes can be vocal mixing. So if you're having trouble with that, I have a cheat sheet that you can download that will walk you through step by step what you can do to try to get better vocal mixes on your next song. So if you're interested in that, there will be a link in the description. If you like this video, go ahead and click that like button. If you aren't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you can get alerted every time I post a new video, and I will see you in the next round.